Yes, that's a play on Prince. Hope everybody's doing well. We got a cool little stream today. We're going to chop it up. Who freaking knows where we're going to take this? But we get to talk about DeFi. We get to talk about cool things. The one, the only founder of DragonX, Eric. What's up, dude?
Let's go. Hey, man. So where should we start, man? How are you feeling about TitanX right now?
Man, how am I honestly feeling about TitanX right now? I honestly feel that the people that have been a part of the TitanX ecosystem up until this point have checked every single box that they've had control over to make this successful. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. We're really good at plugging the gaps, man. Like with our
Yeah,
protocols.
and it's quick. I mean, it's rapid. You know, I saw a tweet from you today. You made mention about how rapid things are happening, and what did you mean by that? Like, clarify that a little bit. I've seen people talking about that a little bit.
There's so many protocols launching. A lot of these teams, it's their first project. Like the project is their first DeFi thing. Um, People need to make sure that they're going slow enough to avoid errors and issues. I don't want to call any out any teams or anything because I think the teams are doing a great job in general. Like we're actually extremely blessed with the teams that we have been building in terms of
Okay.
security. But it's just, I mean, there are so many protocols coming. There's a lot that's been built. I think we should slow down to the degree that we're very certain about the security of the systems. I don't think necessarily that even everybody needs their own project, right? There's a bunch of guys rallying around a single project that's of a higher quality, more innovative, and takes a little bit longer to build. Could be a good strategy, right? Quality over quantity is essentially what I'm saying.
Okay. Cool. Just some feedback here from the chat. Your mic, it's really good for a second, and then it goes down.
But let me try to.
We'll check chat here too while he's taking care of that here. Mo in the house. What is up? Facing reality. Boom. What's up? Facing reality. Nice to have you in here. Luca, what is good? Nice to have you in here, Luca. Thanks for hopping in. Mobius. Yeah, love it. Dragon there. Gunnerboat, Steam with Titan Legends. I'm digging the artwork with Morpheus and DragonX. Dude, I'll tell you guys, I'm not massively creative, but Grok is really coming around. So, if you want some cool artwork, it really does a good job of capturing what you're talking about. And then it doesn't have like the crazy letter interpretations that other AI platforms might have. So cool stuff. Pulse Chain Trainer. Let's drop some alpha. Yeah, we'll talk about all sorts of stuff. We'll Joe Rogan this thing. Quinn, what's up, Quinn? Where are they? Here they are. Weird pink monster things. Let's bring Eric back in here. Test, test, test. Now I can't hear you at all, man. It made it worse. You're mute. You're gone.
Muted. It's muted.
Oh, there you are.
Okay. We good?
Yeah, dude, we're good.
Okay.
So yeah, maybe touch on real quick, like what you'd said, because it was just kind of in and out.
Okay.
The rapid pace, etc.
Yeah. There's a lot of building happening. For some people, it's their first protocol, right? So we just need to make sure we're very conscious of security. And maybe that means going slower, having people team up on projects so they can afford the proper teams to build it. Just because ultimately quality trumps quantity when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like I would rather see 4 people get together, think through something really new, and then send that out and fund top tier audits, fund top tier dev. So this is what I was trying to get at there: quality over quantity, effectively.
Cool. I think
big time.
The thing I like about TitanX is there are specific call to actions to give a general direction about where we need to grow out. I think that's important.
Yep.
So with that said, you got people that are going to kind of pool together. They're going to use their intellectual ability to solve a big problem. What sort of problems do you see that need to be solved potentially, or directions that we need to go to make it stronger here?
Yeah, I think there are a few. I think right now Burning Tank is a big one. We have this new platform, right? It's a real good way to draw people in, is to basically have a high APY system that they can immediately latch onto, right? A lot of people like APY. So one of the things that we should rally around is burning Tink. And I think that is something that I'm talking to a few teams about right now, behind the scenes. One of them is a sender, which I'm getting more and more excited about this protocol. I hope that, like I said, it's a matter of hitting a certain standard of quality, but if they can hit that, I would like to represent that, help to represent them and go on stream with them and promote what they have, because they have a really cool protocol that does burn a lot of Tink. So I think burning Tink is absolutely one element. There could be some other DeFi protocols that provide utility beyond simply like cyclical burning. You could have a fork of Aave or something. Another thing would be going cross-chain with Jake and helping to facilitate that. So that's something we're talking about. Is definitely one where I think there's going to be more opportunity to build utility. So those are a couple ideas that come to mind, but I'm sure there are plenty of others.
How this is a problem that I have, and it's hard to deal with. Like, how do you choose the people that you kind of want to attach your reputational equity to? Like, which projects? Like, because that's difficult, right? Like, because there's so many landmines involved in that. The people landmine, the code landmine, all this other stuff. Like, so do you have any thoughts on that at all?
You should probably have worked with these people before. Is a good piece of advice, right? Like, at this point, I'm not working with people for the first time on projects.
Yeah.
So maybe what you do is you cut your teeth basically promoting another project that you believe in, that's already proven itself to have like foundationally a good foundation, right? It's foundationally sound. It has quality code, quality community, a good founder. You work with them for a while, right? Maybe that person has resources. And then you go on together to the next thing.
Good.
So yeah, effectively the way that you can most likely to succeed is to work with a team that's already been successful, right? So try to be part of something in one capacity or the other that has been successful or has a high probability of being successful, and then carry that group over, because that's a trusted group. Carry that over to the next project, right? I think that's probably a good way of taking it, because there are multiple teams here, and a lot of the teams have already built stuff that's been successful.
Yeah, yeah. So you're looking for track record.
Yeah.
You're looking for, I guess you're looking for character, and you're looking for the, the public facing aspect as well. That makes sense. So check all those boxes. Now, let me go back to this real quick. And a lot of people that are watching this stream right now, they don't really know who you are, because I've got a completely separate group of folks here. So maybe you can we'll take this at the beginning, like introduce yourself. Who are you? How'd you get into this first and foremost? And then we'll move forward from there.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Eric. I'm a software engineer by training. I've worked in a lot of venture funded startups, and as well as bigger tech companies as a software engineer, and also on the business side, where I did also some marketing. So I had a pretty broad business experience. And in terms of crypto, I've been in since 2015. I remember when Ethereum launched, there are people running around my office like, hey, this is the next new big thing. So I was into the first 2017 kind of ICO bubble. I made good money, but it wasn't life-changing money,
Yeah.
Kind of checked out and continued with my career. And then 2020 rolled around. I found Richard Hart, got into Hex March 2020, kind of drank the Kool-Aid of DeFi. I learned a lot about DeFi through Richard.
Yep.
If you look at my early tweets, a lot of them are informed by Richard. So he was a big influence for me personally in crypto. Still wasn't really building at that time. But I was interested in investing, and I'm pretty heavily invested in Pulse Chain to this day.
Yeah.
So I wanted to basically make the most of my Pulse Chain investment, and that's when I ran into Jake Sharp, who is the founder of TitanX. And yeah, Jake is a really smart guy. And he basically, I was able to get in there early enough to before TitanX had launched. So that's when the idea of building really started to become a thing for me. I already knew a lot of talented people, And we were working on some small crypto stuff, kind of like contract work, but I decided that this was the moment that I would take that founding leap, because I did have that solid team, and I did have 10 years in tech to basically vet people and understand what talent looks like, right?
Sure. Sure.
So we were able to make that leap basically with TitanX, and since then we've just been running with it. And we also do contract work as well, so we have a few clients. So we were kind of a business in and of itself, but yeah, TitanX is our main focus.
Yeah, I'm actually I don't want to choose the wrong word here, but it's I think it's surprising to me to see your depth of knowledge about not only how DeFi works like systematically, but like, you know, the why behind these protocols, like what's important. You seem to have a really good understanding of that. And that might just because you've been blessed with a solid brain on your shoulders and you can just connect those dots together pretty well. But you know, where did you get that? Did you study? Like how do you pick up DeFi so well? I've watched you in the shadows here.
Yeah, I think the software background is a really, really powerful way, because ultimately this stuff is software, and
Yep.
it is systems, and having the past experience of designing systems and building systems in software,
Yep.
it's really not actually a very big leap for someone to go from software world, like Steve DeFi was also in the software world, Mike Dean, right? And Jake was also a software engineer. So
Okay.
it's not as big a leap to go from a person who's not in software to crypto as it is from it's a smaller leap to get into crypto from software. So, and it also gives you that systems perspective of looking at it. So you're looking at it from a software perspective, and there's a lot of benefits to that effectively. And then in addition to that, I was there at the genesis of TitanX. So I've watched the ecosystem grow, and I've been able to effectively apply the DeFi primitives that I learned through, Richard, and looking at how Hex was built, I was in private groups with like the guys who built Hedron. So I was paying attention to all of these DeFi building blocks being built and accumulating knowledge about how DeFi kind of works and how the fundamental elements come together. And then from that, I think that's kind of like where I gained my knowledge and why my approach is effective, I would say.
Awesome.
Yeah.
If somebody asked you, Eric, what is your role within the TitanX community? What would you respond with?
It's a good question. I would say that I do consider myself to be a community leader and someone that I think the most value that I've provided beyond what I've built is to help people understand what is valuable to TitanX as an ecosystem at the current moment, right? And looking at the entire ecosystem and saying, hey, we should focus our efforts here, or we should focus our efforts here. And I think that does come out of my knowledge of DeFi and how this is all coming together, as well as my knowledge of bull markets and like what's going to be coming. So yeah, I would say that being a mouthpiece for where we should direct our energies is I think a big part of how I try to provide value to the TitanX ecosystem. So I would say something of a community leader. I've been a little bit in my own lane of building, probably too much. So what I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to reach out to more people that are building on DragonX, and I'm trying to be more of a support network for them.
Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah,
I can tell. I can see that shift.
Yeah, it's something I'm shifting into more now, and it's something that I should have done earlier, and I'm recognizing that. So your team, I want to help support you guys. Ascender team, I think, is doing great stuff. AwesomeX. The genesis of AwesomeX came out of conversations I was having with the founder about, well, what if we could do kind of what Inferno does, but we do it on DragonX, we make it perpetual.
Yeah.
Right. So that was kind of where that came from. We did the baby DragonX contracts. So we've always been in the background supporting the ecosystem one way or the other, either through auditing code to try to find malicious stuff going on,
Yep.
or helping people design systems better. But I'm trying to be more forward and more proactive in helping people build on DragonX now.
Is that so? From a personality standpoint and a trait standpoint, is that difficult for you? Because I think most people in your line of work as software developers, it might be difficult internally. You come across very smooth and very well, don't get me wrong, but like,
Thanks.
Has that been difficult?
I think the most, and these are great questions, by the way. I'm loving this. And this is a good, because a lot of people don't like me within TitanX, for one reason or the other.
Okay.
Either because I'm garbage, human garbage, as some people think, because I support Trump. But I think actually the biggest impediment to me being more of a community leader is my competitive nature, because I am like such a competitive person, and I want to win. And I think that's something that has been probably the biggest blocker to me helping teams more. There is also the element of spreading my own reputation around to untested groups.
Yep.
But I would say that my sheer ambition to make DragonX the leader in this ecosystem and to effectively continue to be the market leader has probably been my biggest impediment. But I do see a shift toward build on DragonX as being a way to kind of ameliorate that, where we have DragonX as a fundamental base that is hyper deflationary and it's growing very fast, and people can then build on top of that.
Well, we have somebody here that needs to tell you something important, Eric. All right.
Uh-oh. Where is that? I didn't see that.
It's the comment on the screen here. I didn't like you until I heard you were pro MAGA.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, it's funny too, because like people say, "Oh man, don't talk politics," and I think this is kind of short-sighted, especially where we are right now in American politics. Like you've got one side that wants to censor speech, which would absolutely include crypto speech, by the way. Let's be honest. Like, I mean, it's you can't run ads, crypto ads. Censorship is really, really high in crypto. So you have these people who are like, "Hey, don't talk politics." Crypto is so politicized. It's one of the most politicized industries.
Yeah.
And it's not even something that we as crypto builders want to be politicized. It's simply something that the other side is trying to politicize, right?
Yeah.
And so you fundamentally can't get away from it until these people agree to finally let the ecosystem and the industry build on its own. So trying to pretend like it doesn't exist and like we're just gambling in this place, it's just like hiding away and waiting for these people to come after us.
Correct.
And I think the crypto industries realize this. Like you have these huge. Now you have a super PAC that's funded by Coinbase, right?
Yep.
It's a crypto super PAC. They're one of the biggest donation groups that are donating to this campaign now. And other people are realizing that the pendulum is swinging too far in one direction, and you can no longer ignore it, right? Look at Elon Musk. He's a person who just wants to build things. Like he was Obama's friend. But now he's getting militant because he realizes like the walls are closing in on tech,
Well, the walls closed in on him as soon as he started questioning the narrative, and that goes back. Like, I think you saw the first inkling of that when the SEC started coming after him with regards to Tesla, even PayPal. Going back to 2010, he hates the SEC first and foremost, and these bureaucracies. They are formed not to help people. That's the guise that's the Trojan horse. But they metastasize and then they gobble up their own citizenry. We've seen that time and time again throughout history. And Elon, thankfully, he's not, for lack of a better word, he's not a pussy. I don't know how else to say it. And he's willing to use his resources, his reputation, and then also say what he really believes is true to push back against the absolute crazy. And Eric, I'm glad that you are outspoken about this because that I've made my entire online YouTube experience. I've been very outspoken. I remember making YouTube videos about whether or not Karl Marx would like Bitcoin. That was like one of my first YouTube videos in the past. Yeah. And I laid out my, all my theories on that, but it's important, man. Like crypto is important, but crypto it's a way to capture back financial liberty, but it's a tool in the tool bag amongst many tools. And for us not to talk about politics with regards to this it's asinine It's completely out of control. I hate when people try to come and tell me what to do or tell me what should come out of my mouth or not. Everybody preaches free speech until it comes to cryptocurrency. You can't talk about anything. You can't support anything else. You're trying to open people's minds up here.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny. Like, I think it's kind of the serious. There are a lot of soy boys in Ethereum. I think that's part of the problem. Like, because I think the Bitcoiners are a little bit more political. They're a little bit more hardcore, you know. But there's a lot of soy boys in Ethereum, and you see these posts. Like, I was going after this guy today, Don Alt. And by the way, this is somewhat of a punching up marketing strategy, right?
Yep, sure.
Like, Don Alt is a big altcoin guy, and he has 500,000 on Twitter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or this guy Tim. I know this guy Tim is followed by all the big crypto guys. He's this guy who talks about spiritual awakening, blah blah blah. I like his stuff. He's actually very smart. He has a lot of good takes, but they also have this aloofness to them, where they think that they're just gonna make Wi-Fi money and sit back while Wall Street strangles crypto, and they don't think it's gonna come down and affect them, right? They think that you're gonna get a Bitcoin standard if they ban Bitcoin. You really think that's going to happen? You're not going to get a big, like there's a certain threshold that you cannot overcome, a certain threshold of control and a certain threshold of censorship that you simply cannot overcome, And these guys are making it seem like it's just something that they can be aloof about, and that they're somehow more elevated and more, it's snobbery.
It is snobbery. It's elitism that really exists. Yeah. And the narrative about elitism didn't start in America, guys. This plays over and over. One thing, Eric, that really concerned me when I really started to have an understanding of cryptocurrency, I said, well, where's the innovation happening right now? And a lot of the innovation was happening in progressive think tanks concentrated in certain parts of the country. And I said, wait a minute, these people who have these ideologies are developing the technologies that's going to move cryptocurrency forward in the future. I said, that's a problem. We're very underrepresented. And I think that you got to understand, like, ends justify the means with these folks. And, I said, there's probably some UBI sort of stuff that's going to try to come out of this. There's going to be, we have to track people, massive privacy concerns. They don't want this to take off in a direction of liberty. They want 100%. To constrict and constrain and control.
100%. Yeah. I mean, like, it's funny too that people give backlash to this, right? And I really don't think that you understand the ethos of crypto if you think what I'm saying is particularly controversial or somehow MAGA or somehow right wing. I mean, if you ever listen to Eric Voorhees, who's one of the Bitcoin OGs, hardcore libertarian, I'm of that school, like these guys, they understand that crypto is fundamentally political, and they see what's happening to it. They see what the damage that AML KYC has done to the industry.
Yep.
Right. They recognize that the agencies are being weaponized to basically put crypto in a place of perpetual ambiguity to prevent the development of the industry while Wall Street decides what they're going to do with this industry.
Yeah, it's slowing us down so they can buy time.
Exactly. They want to see what the landscape looks like, and then they want to come in and dominate it, right? In a permissioned way, and they do that through regulatory capture. So that's effectively what's happening. It's happening with many industries. It's also happening with crypto. It's happening with pharma. It happens with all the industries. Basically, the big players. There's a revolving door between the agencies and between the private sector, and so the private sector employees are captured by the big businesses. And then effectively, they get paid off. They go work for the company and make their money. But while they're in the regulatory seat, they listen to the companies.
Yeah.
Right.
Gensler and Goldman Sachs, for example.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's all well known. And so I just think it's a little bit naive. It's more than a little bit naive to sit back and say, all we need is a Bitcoin standard. Everything's going to be fine. Like this guy Tim was saying, hey, it's not enlightened. It's so the political arena is so ugly and so difficult. to navigate, and it's so basically too dirty for him. Is effectively what I
Cop
would say.
out. It's a cop
Right.
out because he's not willing to say what he thinks. That's what that is.
Yeah, well, I mean, like this idea that the political arena is too dirty is fundamentally flawed, deeply, because the political arena has always been dirty, and if you don't fight the dirty fights, then you're not going to be able to live in the clean world that you want to live in.
Yep.
Right? That's the entire premise of politics, is like you're effectively fighting for the world that you want to live in, and if you cease to fight for it, then you lose it.
Yes.
And this is like an age-old axiom, you know. Before this world of technology, before the world that everyone was prosperous, the place that the ambitious guys would go was politics.
Mhm.
That's where they affected change. That's where they built the world they want to build. Now we have this parallel world, this digital world of bytes, right, that we can retreat to build things we want to build. But ultimately, it's the physical world and the human world and the meat space that determines what we can do within the digital world. So you can't just disregard meat space, otherwise you end up with censorship. I mean, if Elon didn't buy Twitter, it would be total censorship.
It's insane.
You can't run crypto ads anywhere. The only way that crypto can market is X, you know? So imagine being someone who doesn't understand this, who potentially is even voting for, there are Ethereum softwares who are absolutely voting for Kamala. You can tell by the way they tweet.
Oh, I can tell. There's one guy that's bad, a big Ethereum guy. I forgot what his name is.
Yeah,
But yeah, I see it constantly. Look,
But anyway, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you say your last part.
No, I was going to say also evidenced by like, look who the XRP guys have come out and endorsed, which is the Democrat Party, Kamala for this. And you know, when I remember when they were under SEC investigation, we go and we find that they are working closely with the United States government with the rails for the CBDCs, XRP and these guys. So they're under, you know, litigation, and then this is happening as well. It's like it's happening right under our eyes. Everybody's on board. The Bitcoiners are walking around with this. They're like, oh yeah, you know, who owns the Bitcoin? It's being concentrated in Wall Street. Everything's good. Who cares? Our bags are pumping. Go Bitcoin. But that changed. It didn't used to be like that. So how come nobody's being intellectually honest about these changes that are occurring? It's because of greed and it's because of money. Price go up. And I think the institutions know this. They're buying Bitcoin like crazy every single day, the ETFs. So it's a weird world, man. How do you think it's actually talk about what you were going to talk about before I interrupted you there.
No, it's just another point. Like I was making some analogies on Twitter, which are effectively like acting like you don't care about. So if you think about society, right? It's like a multi-generational cathedral that's being built, right? And it takes hundreds of years to create a republic like the United States. Okay. You could argue that it took 1,000 years because of the whole Enlightenment, everything that came before, all the thought, all the wars, all the people that died, the Reformation of Christianity, all that stuff that basically funneled into the founding of the United States. Okay, extremely high-minded principles that have never been replicated anywhere else.
Yes.
Okay? So running for 300 years.
Yes.
It's a once in an epoch kind of state formation that happened.
Yes.
Well, you know. And to act like you're aloof from that is like saying, oh, I don't care about, like none of these rich Ethereum guys would ever say, I don't care about cuisine, just give me whatever. I don't care about architecture, just build everything with concrete, right? But when it comes to the architectural edifice of our politics, right, it's just, I'm too refined for that politics stuff. And that's exactly why we have such crude politics, is because the ambitious guys, up until like the last few cycles, like Elon's doing it now. But if all the ambitious people are like, it's too dirty for me to touch, then what you get is you get the boobs who go in. You know, you don't get the quality people in politics. And then there's
fill the void.
There's a counteracting effect.
Yeah.
You know? So it's kind of obvious. I mean, I don't know why any of that's controversial, but it's just kind of reality.
Yeah. Dude, there's so much to be said about certain groups in the world these days that want to take thousands and thousands of years of knowledge that is proven, tried, and tested, and they want to just throw it out with the bathwater. And they want to start building their own pillars and institutions. They want to destroy everything out there and build it from the ground up. It's quite frustrating. I think that's very irresponsible as a society to do. And there are certain people that are pushing it much more than others in politics. Specifically, the ideas that started back in the 1870s, 1860s and 70s with Marx and Engels. I mean, those policies and those ideas and those philosophies have probably led to more physical deaths than just about any other policy or philosophy in human history. Pure amount of people who have died because of that, especially in the 20th century.
Have you read the Gulag Archipelago?
Bro. Got it right here, buddy.
Like, I think if everybody should read that book. It's one of the most harrowing books you will ever read. It's crazy. Like, it's literally a perfect case study in how when the right people, when good men don't stand up to evil and they slink away from it, it just continues to walk toward them and the entire society falls apart. Like, it's really fascinating. So it's a psychological book because it really shows you how people will hide away, and that cowardice actually creates just this oppressive situation. It's fascinating, actually.
Dude, that book, okay, so to give people a little bit of background here with that book, if you've ever heard the term Russian gulags, there was a period of time, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 1916 or 1919, all the way up into the 1950s, where communism gripped Russia, and they started just exterminating people who disagreed with the government. I condensed it way down, guys. Like, don't bust my chops. You got to read the book. It's a long book. But this book was the first book that was published that allowed the American people to really understand what was happening in Russia. The U.S. government was trying to keep it quiet a little bit because they are also trying to work with the Russian government in certain ways. But when that book came out, everybody was just dumbfounded. I mean, they didn't believe that this was happening. The amount of human suffering on the scale that it happened, they had no clue. So the American public, this was their first introduction to what was happening in Russia. And Eric, a particular part of that book that has always stuck out to me in such a big way, and it's so applicable in many aspects of my life, is they talk about the people with the brown shirts, which are these government agents that are kind of intermingling within the communities.
Yep.
And if they see something that they don't like, what happens is they come to your house late at night, very quietly. They open the door, they interview you. Maybe it's 2 or 3 of these people. They take you out and you're never seen again. And then you're put through the sewer system of the gulags. But what was important was the way that he described it. He says that these people would sneak inside the houses. Well, why would they sneak inside the houses? It's because they know that they are outnumbered by the populace. They don't want to create a scene because they can be overpowered. So they tell everybody to be very quiet. They don't bust down doors. They knock very politely. They act normal. They tell these people to be quiet. Now, what's the parallel in society? Just like you said, if you don't speak up when you see bad things, then you're going to have this sort of thing destined to occur once again. And the government knows that it's overmanned and it's overpowered, and they hate when people talk. They hate when people speak to each other, which is why they have to cut out free speech, because that's one of the easiest ways to communicate ideas and tell your neighbor and talk to your neighbor and have consensus about good things and bad things. They don't want that. They want to control the narrative. So
dude, I think that's one of the really scary messages of that book, is how basically the cowardice of people allowed for, because had they just stood up and revolted, there's no way that these commissar guys, who by the way had quotas, they had to deliver, because they would have been disappeared if they didn't bring 20 guys in every week. So basically the whole society is consuming itself. But yeah, I mean, this idea that basically at any point, if they could just have shaken off these people, except each person was too afraid and too self-interested to defend the person next to them. Right. And that's what I see in this crypto world, where it's like, oh, I'm just going to hang out, and I was early on ETH. I'm just going to hang out over here. I'm aloof. Politics is so dirty. You're just being scammed if you think that voting is actually doing anything. It's like,
Yeah.
well, the reason we've gotten to this point is because you've been thinking that for 20 years. Like these people have been thinking that for 40 years or 50 years or 100 years, that elections don't matter. You know, it's like elections don't matter because people aren't deciding they matter and they aren't standing behind that. And it's the same thing with crypto. Like if you don't decide that AML is unacceptable and you don't lobby your congressman to do something about it, then they'll just keep moving the regulation closer and closer. There'll be KYC wallets. You know, DeFi will be illegal. You'll need a license for DeFi, you know, which affects my business and my life. So like, I just think people, they're not quite grasping the second order consequences that come from things like this. It's human nature to a degree. But
it's hard to break. It's hard to break out of that and think in waves. Another good book for anybody out there too. Will and Ariel Durant, The Lessons of History. This book really taught me, and he has a series of books that go over all sorts of civilizations, the rise and the fall. But the thing about this book that I appreciated was you got to understand that you're just a tiny speck of dust and you're on a wave in the ocean. But you got to understand too that you might be on a wave going one direction, but when you zoom out, you're actually on a broader wave that's going a completely different direction. And things shift over time and they refine over time. And when I say over time, I'm not talking about 10, 50, 60 years. We're talking about in time chunks of 500 years and 1,000 years. And the damage that you do can take a very, very long time to repair. That's why it's so important to hold true and keep liberty in the hands of the people who have fought to get it to this point. Because if you lose it, it's really hard to get it back, man.
Yeah.
From a philosophical standpoint too, and then for my ethos in terms of cryptocurrency, I happen to believe that cryptocurrency is not the most important thing, but I think it's an extremely important thing. I think that we are fighting to keep society buoyant right now, and there are dark clouds on the horizon, and I want to be a part of the solution. I want to be a part of the fight and hit this head on. For a lot of my life, I kept my mouth shut and I felt ashamed. And, you know, there was a time in the past where I said no more. So here we are, you know.
All great points. And I think it also applies to the crypto industry very much because I see this whole meme coin trend and it bothers me because it's like, well, have we learned nothing that we can build upon? Is there no foundation? Is there no edifice that we can build upon? Or are we just going to continue to trade mindless coins, like, which provide no value? And it's effectively like, I see these guys like Ansem and stuff like that. It's like, dude, you're just gambling on pictures. Like,
Yeah.
It's pure gambling. Like, I get it. There's a lot of gambling and speculation in crypto. But look at Titan Farms, right? There's no way someone with a nihilistic perspective who didn't learn from the past, who didn't look at the last DeFi cycles, who wasn't paying attention, right? There's no way someone who was just thinking it's all about memes would ever have arrived at something like Titan Farms, right? It's a totally different mindset. You know, or the same thing with Uniswap. Do you think the Uniswap guy was like, oh, it's all just ICOs, there's no point, right?
Right.
He was like, no, maybe there's something here, right? Right? So he built Uniswap. So now people are trading on Uniswap and they think they're nihilistic again. And they're like, oh, we'll just trade pictures on Uniswap.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, okay, well then Aave came along. Then stablecoins came along. You know? Then privacy came along, Railgun.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so maybe you're just being nihilistic and short-sighted. And maybe there is a lot of cool stuff happening. So maybe instead of just acting like this entire industry is cat pictures, which, I mean, it's a huge part of it. There's no doubt about it. Like, we can't fade it. It's also fun. But like, let's not pretend that there isn't some cool software to build here, that there aren't some cool things that are actually have utility to people. I mean, Titan Farms brings utility to speculators, right?
Yeah. It's difficult. It's difficult though to, you know, and I don't even know if this is devil's advocate, but you've got to stick around in cryptocurrency for a long time to pick up enough truths to actually understand what's actually happening. So a lot of people don't stick around. A lot of the smart folks don't stick around long enough to understand the big picture. But you do have maybe like you or maybe like myself that kind of understand how it actually works at a pretty good level, that then can take that information and do something about it.
Yeah.
So, you know, the question is like, what can we do to get people to stick around longer? Which is maybe give them a good experience. I'd imagine, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that bring new utility when you can, right?
Yeah.
Is a big part of it. And yeah, I just think there's a lot of cultural nihilism. It's not just in crypto, it's in everything. It's political nihilism. Oh, it doesn't matter who you vote for. Oh, just trade memes. You know, it's like,
YOLO.
yeah, YOLO, man. Like, I'll just be an influencer. Like, no one needs to be an engineer. I'll just be an influencer. It's like, well, who's building the computer that you're running your stream on? You know, like it's just, we can't just, just outsource it to China. Like, what?
Yeah.
You know, and it's so funny because in this world of cynicism, it's the people who have the principles, who stand on principles. They're the ones that make the difference. You know, it's just that the bad people have principles. They want you to be nihilistic.
Correct.
They have principles of their own and aims of their own, right? So if you don't stand on good principles, then you're not resisting them. Like, I mean, look at Elon. Like, he's a dude, he probably has mild Asperger's, right? And that's the kind of guy you need these days. Peter Thiel says this. Have you read 0 to 1?
I've not read that, no.
Great book. But basically the idea is we've become such a nihilistic, consumeristic society that you need these people with Asperger's to go, wait a second, there's something that can be built here. There's something new, something innovative. I have a vision.
Now, is that because the there's an emotional detachment and they're able to see the logic in what's happening better than others?
Exactly.
Is that the thought process?
They're less socially connected, and they're more connected to their own thoughts, their own feelings, and their own aims, right? I mean, I don't claim to be an expert at Asperger's or whatever, but you get what I'm saying. Those
generally
type
speaking,
of people who are principles oriented and they're engineering oriented, those kind of people, those are the ones who actually make the breakthroughs, because the society is like this stagnant thing, and then the people who actually think at right angles are the ones that actually break society to a new level. So Elon is like rushing to Twitter to buy it, and think about how many haters he has, right? And a lot of people don't even understand it. But you see how far ahead of the game he was? It turns out they were censoring us massively.
Yes.
Right? And now with the rockets, the same thing. So ultimately, if you don't stand on principles, then the people who you don't like, who are trying to invade you and take away your world, they stand on their own principles. So if you don't stand on something good, then the bad people who are standing on something bad will win. Right?
Yeah.
So you can't be this person who's just like a consumer who just, there's a famous quote from Elon. He says basically, it's not, life just can't be about solving problems, right? It has to be about something bigger, right? And that's ultimately what drives society forward, like bigger ideas than just, I'm going to make a few bucks, I'm going to store it away. And it'll become more obvious, right? As the government prints more money, it's like, okay, well, where are you going to put it? Because you can't buy a house, you can't even afford a car. Cars are like the cost of houses now. You have to finance them. So like the walls are closing in, but you're just gonna make a flip on a meme coin and it's all gonna work out. I don't think so. Like, and it's reaching that point of desperation. Where and now people they're gravitating to crypto because it's a pure asset, right? That can resist some of that. But then if the regulations come, then they're screwed again.
Yeah, I would be completely remiss right now if I didn't mention what Richard Hart is doing in court right now. What he's fighting for right now is setting the precedent for the entirety of cryptocurrency. He's got a really strong legal team as well, and I think that one of the reasons why it doesn't get more press in crypto at large, broader crypto, is because some of these people actually don't believe, again, in liberty or freedom of speech and things of that nature. And think about all the people who own some of these major reporting networks in cryptocurrency. These are OG Bitcoin people, or these are like Silicon Valley, Ethereum people. They control the narrative. So we have these little mini tyrannies that are popping up that are not giving attention to the things that actually matter. This is huge for the whole cryptocurrency community. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, 100%, man. I really hope Richard wins. Like, Richard is
Yeah.
one of the heroes. And it's interesting because Richard tweets a lot about politics, right? He tweets, vote this. You know, he talks about how the impact of the case is going to impact all of crypto. This guy's a freaking fighter, man. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Richard's amazing, you know?
Yep.
I really hope he wins. I think if Trump wins, he'll probably do all right, you know? I don't know what's
Yeah.
going to happen if Harris wins, you know? But
Well, I think
we'll see.
Gensler sticks around to at least 2026. Janet Yellen might croak before 2026. That means Gensler takes Treasury Secretary, which probably isn't a good thing either. So there's a lot of bad things, man. Like, it really feels like a tipping point, more so than any tipping point I've felt in my entire life. I've not been on this earth forever, but I've studied elections and I understood what was on the line previously. So I think it's very important, especially for cryptocurrency. They do not like people doing what they want to do with their own money. And it's because the system that they've created financially is teetering so much that any variable that they do not control has the potential to crash things. And then who suffers as a result of that? It's regular folks. And they take over. And it's report Venmo $1,000, report Venmo $600 or more, or $500, and it keeps decreasing. Like they have to have control over this command and control economy here.
It's brutal. Using a bank now for transfers is absolutely the most painful thing.
Yes.
I mean, we're so lucky to have crypto. I can't believe the world is operating on the system. Sometimes I have to dip into it and do a wire transfer. It's painful. It's so painful.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's so interesting too, because people are like, oh, elections don't matter. It's like, man, it could be the level of control. People don't comprehend the level of control that's out there. That these people can put on us. Like, just be glad you have the agency that you have and exercise it. Because, for example, I lived in Nepal. Okay.
Yep.
This is a total slave state. That the people within the country, the banking system is totally cordoned off from the rest of the world. So you cannot transfer money in or out because they want total control over the currency. Cryptocurrency is banned. There's a 300% tax on vehicles. So, and there's many, many taxes. So they effectively have created this open air prison. And then all these guys are living in Dubai.
So let's go back. This is important. What, you know the answer to this. Explain to the folks. Why is it so important for them to take away the ability, or why are they taxing the cars? Why do they do that?
I mean, it's almost like it's suicidal policy, but they want to keep the they want to keep the economy down.
Yes.
They don't want people to be too rich.
Traveling. They don't want people to be rich, commerce. They lock all that down.
They're locking it down because basically the ruling class, this is how bad it is in some places in the world. The ruling class is rich enough for them, so they refuse to change any of the rules of the game, to the point where they want to print. They have total control over the financial system within that small country.
Yeah.
So you're not allowed to transfer your value in. You're not allowed to transfer your value out. So why do they do that? It's because then they can just inflate. They can inflate $20 million. Yep. They can dump it into the economy. They can extract value, and then they can go to Dubai and live in a mansion. And that's their entire, it's a control structure based on financial control.
Yeah.
And, you know, like if you talk about it, you get disappeared, man. You get disappeared.
Yeah. And
this isn't even like a country that's known for its, and there's many countries like this.
But there's too much at stake. They're so addicted to that inflation. They're so addicted to that power that if you try to take it away, you're gone. You're just a small 100%. Little, And what happens is one of two things happen. Either the government murders all the people, or the people say enough is enough, and then they take care of business. Those are really the two outcomes in these instances. And mostly these days, it's the people saying is enough, and then they excite some sort of change in the government.
But it's so interesting because I think Americans are they're just so naive.
Yes, I was about to ask you about that. Yeah.
Yeah, the naivete is incredible. It's like, oh, we don't need guns. What is this barbaric? Oh, the Constitution is so old and barbaric. It's like, dude, have you been to half the countries on the fucking planet outside the West?
Exactly.
Like, these people are enslaved. It's not a joke.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to go far. You can go to Cancun and then travel 1 mile outside of the tourist area and see what happens to you. Okay, it's not crazy, and they try to keep us. They try to keep us cordoned off, and they try to keep us quiet, and they try to keep us in the dark and super happy and this and that, while the rest of the world is it's not anything like we have here, and that's what we're trying to keep.
Yeah, dude. Like, I mean, China, man. Like, they have this. I lived in China for 1 year. Okay.
Yeah,
it's changed a lot since then, but it was extremely controlling then. No freedom of speech. There isn't a freedom of movement in China. I don't think a lot of people realize this.
Districts.
Do you know what the hukou system is?
No, what's
It's
that?
the district system. You
Okay.
can't just up and move in China. You have you are assigned to the district you're born in. Okay, and you need
Yep.
very special permission from the government to move from one district to the next.
And notice how that's starting to trickle into the West, into London and other major cities. They're starting to adopt that same
Totally.
system.
I mean, it's really, really bad, and people think like this stuff is archaic, but it's actually it's the natural state of man to be enslaved. And we're just like this little bubble, and it's probably already too late now in the United States, to be honest. But like, we at least were this little tiny bubble. It was actually a very radical idea to be free. It was so radical at the time. It really is something worth standing for and worth fighting for. And now freedom has become this word that's associated with somehow racism and bigotry and evil.
It's wild.
That is a sign of real degradation.
But we understand. But we understand why. It's not real. It's a manufactured narrative that's divvied out to the people who don't question anything, and we're hearing it pass through from somebody else through somebody else to us. And the reality is, we actually care about everybody. We want everybody to have freedom. We want everybody to be able to do what they want. Now, some of the other foot I hear is like, they say, you have it so good in America right now. Why are you complaining? Why are you bitching, moaning, and complaining? I hate that. It's so weak. It's because
such a bad argument. Yeah.
it can disintegrate so quickly.
Yeah.
Like everything, you can wake up. It can be in a month. The world can fall apart in a month, and people they don't understand that. Mm-hmm. So that's why you have to be at the forefront, and you have to look the dragon in the face and say, enough is enough. You got to fight. You got to.
Yeah, 100%, dude. Like, you don't get what you don't fight to retain. Like, you need, you have to, exactly, you already said it, man. You have to retain it. It's not just a matter of 300 years ago, a bunch of people died. It's like, it's so interesting how you can live in a society when you claim to be above politics and you claim to be too good for it, but literally all of the privileges that give you the ability to do that were so precious to someone else that they gave their life for it, and yet you think you're above it. It's really astonishing. It's astonishing. The cultural shift over 300 years to the point where it was once something that people would actually die for. Die for. It was that important. To go into something where it's like, oh, the voter turnout is like what, 20%? It's like, it really goes to show like the rot of basically society in a sense, right?
It cycles, man. It's unfortunate. It cycles. We know how this plays. I will say this. I've got more hope, Eric. I've got more hope now than I did even a year and a half ago, because I felt like I was on an island. I'm putting myself out there. I'm trying to wake everybody up. And then suddenly you started to see some pretty prominent figures say, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. And then Elon with his, it's funny, they trash billionaires and they say, look at all these horrible people, but it's billionaires between Trump and Elon who are turning things around in a market way. I just think
it's
that's
so
ironic.
funny, actually. I love the Elon is an idiot people. It's like, okay, Elon's an idiot. Did you see that video that I posted of Elon? He goes through his factory and he names every single part in the Falcon rocket by heart. He knows how it's manufactured, where it goes on the ship, like all the potential deficiencies, et cetera, right? He has a photographic memory. He thinks this is important, but you guys don't think it's important, right?
Yep.
So I guess you're just smarter than Elon. Like,
and he's like,
stuff's important.
I saw some reporter, they're trying to get him, typical progressive bullshit. And they were like, yeah, you're a self-proclaimed engineer of sorts. Where did you get your degree? He was like, oh, I learned about rocketry by reading as many books as I could. And now I know rocketry. I just thought that was beautiful, because really that's all it takes. And They've also brainwashed people to think that you have to get a bachelor's degree to learn something or understand something too. And
Yeah.
that's a big part of the control system I think that's in place.
Yeah, it's really good point too. Like actually, people would benefit from understanding logical fallacies. I think it's something that a lot of people don't get, but that's called the argument from authority,
Yep.
right? Oh, you don't have this degree. You don't have this credential. You're not qualified. Like, and the people who do have it, they say this, this, and this. So you're just wrong. Like,
Yeah.
so that's the argument from authority, where actual logical fact is not in stake. It's an ad hominem type of attack. That's another one. If you look at so much of what the left is doing right now is ad hominem based, right?
Yep.
And it has been for a long time. It's not about the substance. It's not about the politics. It's about Trump is bad, right? It's about JD Vance is bad, right? It's about, oh, you're racist because you support basic fundamental ideas about freedom and liberty.
Yes.
Right? It's about attacking the person because that's fundamentally a more repulsive and more relatable to the average person than actually thinking logically about an issue, which requires like multiple steps of thinking.
Well,
So,
and the thing with that is, and I'm sure you've seen this, these people cannot compete on a battlefield of ideas with
exactly.
what we're talking about. And they never will be able to. And it's because it's not grounded in truth. Now, not to say that people do bring up some good points, and not to say that, but I think the best way to right the ship is to give people more liberty, not less. And that it really boils down to that, man. I think people can fix things on their own, and I don't believe that they believe we have the power to make our own decisions and change society for the good. I think they want to do it. They've got the best decisions. Everybody else is stupid. Everybody else is dumb.
Yeah,
and I believe in human ingenuity.
It's a paternalistic view of society that comes from a belief of superiority, which is ultimately like it comes from privilege. Like a lot of the people that are supporting these terrible policies are professors. Okay, they're people from rich neighborhoods. Trust me, I went to good schools. I lived in a good neighborhood. For whatever reason, I slipped through the cracks. But a lot of these people truly believe they are smarter than you. Like, I mean, I know people like I was on MIT campus and living there, and all my friends. I started a nonprofit that was funded by Harvard Medical School to give basically an electronic medical record system to Syrian refugees. Okay.
Wow.
So I was deeply embedded in the Harvard kind of group. And I was a CTO of that. And I'm telling you, these people, a lot of them just have superiority complexes. They really believe they're better than you.
Yes.
They believe that they are personally superior intellectually and that they know better.
Yes.
And that is an ultimate sin, to believe that you have that ability, that wisdom and knowledge. When in reality, there's something called irreducible complexity, right?
Okay.
These people don't actually study a lot of the logical ideas that would actually underpin good thinking. But there is this idea of irreducible complexity, right? Where it doesn't matter how smart you are, right? You have to operate only on a heuristic basis, because you effectively cannot compute the potential outcome of an action because it's too complex.
Sure.
Politics is one of those things. Politics runs on axioms. It runs on axioms that are
fundamentals. Yes.
Yes, it runs on axioms that have been proven over time. They're heuristic.
Yes.
It's
Very
heuristic
wise,
knowledge.
yeah.
Just because it isn't computed does not mean it's not wise, and does not mean it's not something you can build on, right? And that's the difference between heuristic and other types of knowledge. It's like, okay, this has worked in the past. We should continue with that. Like, we just need to accept that this is something that works, which is individuals in a complex system need to be able to have as much degrees of freedom as possible so they can make the most rational decision, which leads to a efficient economy, which leads to prosperity, right?
Yep.
But these people forget these kind of things because they have this engineering mindset. They have the mindset that they're better than you, and they figured out the game.
Yep.
So they can come in with a regulation that's going to fix it. But it's like they push here and something pops out here, right? It's like the human body.
They can't accept these traditional axioms. They can't accept it, and it's because it's not been blueprinted. So it's very, very difficult. Yeah, I definitely see that, man.
And these axioms are undermined in ways that are absolutely predictable, right?
Yep.
It's white men created them. By the way, I'm not even white. I'm part North African. My mother's has Jewish blood, and I'm also Italian. so we were
Yeah.
never white. So, but they attack white people. They say, oh, white men created this, so it's bad,
Yes.
right? Or the country's fundamentally racist,
Yes.
right? Or this idea is outdated.
Yes.
It's like, well, they're attacking it in predictable ways. It's effectively ad hominem attacks in order to undermine the axiom, so that they can re-engineer it for themselves and for their friends.
And they've been very successful in doing that in a relatively short amount of time.
Oh yeah, totally. And I mean, you look at the birth; it's all just makes sense. Like the birth rates are going down, happiness among people is going down, right? Like it's obviously not working. A lot of these ideas are obviously not working, and they just have this superiority they believe is moral superiority, but it's actually morally repugnant because it leads to a worse outcome for everyone.
Absolutely.
But anyway, that's 1 hour of politics, my friends.
No, I mean, that was great. That was great, dude. That was beautiful.
You want to end on some crypto stuff, or?
Yeah, let's talk about some crypto stuff. Might as well. It's what people are here for, right, people? Let me check some comments here real quick. What is it? My brainwashing is so powerful right now. It becomes so hard to get people to understand. Yeah, the brainwash. Yeah, it's hard. It's very difficult. One of the saddest things that I've seen, one of the saddest effects of this mind virus, if you want to call it that. I've had people that I've known in my life that I was very close with, and they had, for example, a firm belief in God, and if you don't, that's fine. But this is an example. And they had really good values and morals, and they go off to college and university, and within 24 months, they have been completely re-engineered. They are not the same person that they were before. That really makes me sad, Eric, because I've seen it with so many people. It's so powerful, such a powerful brainwashing tool, these colleges and universities.
Yeah,
it blows my mind that they're able to extract a person that was there and supplant it with somebody else. It's wild.
But I don't understand, because there is a certain portion, a sliver of the population that is immune to this, like for myself and
There is.
my family. Some people just don't buy it. And I really wish there was more of a lionization of that skepticism.
Yeah.
And not so much falling in line is so boring,
Yeah.
Like, you really want to believe everything your professor says? I mean, but you're so right. Like, it's totally the universities, dude. They are the breeding ground for these problems. Absolutely, because it always comes 20 years after these kids have gotten out of school, when they're starting to enter into the society at leadership positions. That's when it hits.
Yes.
Yeah. So you know it. Yes, they're totally they're just brainwashed, and then finally, it just reaches what it is.
Well, let me ask you this. We'll bring it back to crypto a little bit. I wanted to ask you this. This is important. Why is Tink so important as a fundamental pillar of what we need to do better with this community? Why is Tink so important?
Because it unifies all of it provides a basically neutral source of utility and income to all eligible projects that any project can avail themselves of, which basically binds the ecosystem together. But it also acts as a marketing tool to those who are uninitiated in TitanX.
Yeah.
And allows for people to come in and purchase TitanX tokens with a clear goal in mind, without fully understanding a lot of the complex DeFi mechanics that some of these tokens require. So it acts as a marketing entry point and also a unifying platform for the ecosystem.
Yes.
What was Jake getting at there? Sorry, I didn't see that.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's basically saying, hey, meritocracy destroys all of this. It destroys all the BS. And it's because it depends on it. Yeah, it's your own effort.
Yeah,
and I completely agree with that. And I think he says that down here too. Meritocracy, breaks all better than thou frameworks. And the only way 100%. Better than thou works is if you're surrounded by better than thou people. That's the only way it works.
Yeah. No, and it's so true. And like, I think sometimes people think that I'm being mean also when I talk, but I actually just want to improve a lot of things. So if I become off as harsh, it's only because I want to basically correct things so that they're better, And I think that's kind of part of the culture with TitanX is like, this could be done better. I don't think you should do that. Don't do that. It's not going to be optimal, you know? And I think I do come off as sometimes a bit abrasive because of that, but I'm actually doing it for the benefit of everybody when I do bring those things up. So I hope people are aware of that.
Okay, good to know.
Because I really do want teams to succeed. I do not have any animosity to any team.
Yeah.
Like DragonX is my token, but I want to support all ecosystem tokens. And
Yeah, he's
Titan Farms
competitive,
is
guys. Don't be too successful because then he'll stop talking to you. When he stops talking to you, you've won. All right, that's the bottom line. All right, good stuff. So the other thing about Tink that I think is so important is, obviously thick liquidity is going to attract bigger players. That's very important. And they want the rewards to be there. They want the liquidity for the rewards to be there. So
Yep.
thick liquidity is very important in that way. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Okay, cool. All right. So moving forward. All right. I know there's things you can talk about, things you can't talk about. You've hinted at some things, this and that. What does TitanX look like in the next 12 months? 12 months from now, what do we look like? What would you like to see happening? What are your thoughts on that? Just throw it out there.
Yeah, I do think we're still going to get a bull market, even if the election is effectively stolen or heavily influenced in a few crucial districts, which is basically all it takes, you know.
Yep.
But I think there'll be a big ass dump if Harris gets in. But
Yep.
ultimately, I think we're going to continue on because rates are being cut, so money is getting cheaper. So when money gets cheaper, eventually it will flow to risk assets.
Rate cuts this week.
Right. The government has to roll its debt over, and it's too expensive to do it at these rates, so they're going to lower it. So I think we have a bull market. I think we have a big deluge of cash coming in. And I think that you're going to see projects potentially get money that they don't deserve, potentially, because everything's going to start working. So keep an eye out for that. I also think that a lot of great projects will shine during this time, the next 12 months. Hyperdeflation, obviously, is massive for us. So I think that's going to probably do really good. I think you'll probably see price appreciation in TitanX. So much burning is happening. So and then X28 is going to come out. That's going to be a huge catalyst. Jake has his hyper-deflationary play, right? It's going to burn even more TitanX.
The quick and dirty about X28 for my viewers here. What's that all about? Quick and dirty.
X28 is a cross-chain protocol that effectively burns TitanX stakes and probably other tokens as well. But it will enable, it will be basically the gateway for TitanX to go cross-chain. So for example, X28 is what will be bridged and distributed to other chains for new DeFi protocols. And that X28 will be probably burned on those chains, right? But the only way to get X28 is to basically burn TitanX on Ethereum. Okay. So it's almost like having a side chain, and the validation mechanism or the mining mechanism is X28.
Very cool.
That makes sense.
I see that. I see how that works.
And that's kind of, Jake is talking about, I think I was one to put this idea in his brain, by the way, of having a TitanX chain. But basically, TitanX is like a mining protocol, or X28 can be like a mining protocol. And effectively, that's what X28 is. So it's a multi-chain, omni-chain kind of world for TitanX. What does Jake say?
He said Kamala wins, good for crypto because of hyperinflation, and all that money will flow into risk assets and protection. Yeah, and that's the thing. We're just at the point in the cycle where they've got to roll that debt over. The interest payments are just too much. They've got to decrease that. So we're gonna see that definitely.
It's coming. Yeah.
It's coming quick. All right, cool. So we've got that. What about what about DragonX, man? Here, hold on. Let me ask you this, Eric. I think you need to tell the community right now why the buy and burn is not on. Tell me right now, Eric. Right now, no excuses. We demand it. Tell me.
I already said this on a stream, but yeah, no, I mean, I just want to wait to see what happens. This is a massive week for TitanX and for the broader markets.
Yeah.
And I would like to see if there is a greater period of capitulation.
Yeah.
Because if we can get TitanX at half the price it is right now with that Ethereum, then that's just way more efficient.
Yeah.
So let's just see what this incredibly volatile week holds for us, and then move forward from there.
Great.
Ultimately, there's only one thing that can happen with that ETH. right? It's buying DragonX and buying TitanX. There's no other option.
You mean you can't put it in your bank account, Eric? Is that what you're telling me?
Unfortunately not.
Oh, see?
Wouldn't be very
He's
fair.
honest.
Wouldn't be very fair. No, no, we got a good reward. You know, we're very happy. And ultimately that it was the adoption from the community that made that happen. So thank you guys. Yeah, I like that Jake is putting that positive message that crypto will win either way. I think that's really great.
Yeah.
And I do hope that the politics is now sufficiently influenced by crypto that either party will recognize that they probably shouldn't murder this thing. Although I'm still quite skeptical, but we'll see. But I
Wildly
do think
skeptical.
Jake's message is positive. Jake's message is very positive, which
I love
appreciate.
it. Me too. It's good. We win either way. Okay, cool. You know, somebody wants to talk about the Lotus announcement. I'm going to leave that to the Lotus folks. I think that probably just happened. I've got no idea what it is.
Okay.
But yeah, great dude. You know, what are you excited about in terms of, so you love TitanX, you know, you're participating in the TitanX community, but you're a DragonX dude, man. So you're unapologetic about that.
True.
That's important to you. So what are some of the things that will help DragonX the most moving forward?
Yeah, it's a good question. So right now, DragonX has a bunch of burners, right? It's got AwesomeX, Morpheus, Titan Farms burns a lot of DragonX, and we have Hydra, which is the biggest burner. But that's not enough. So what I want to do is I want to do deeper support for protocols that are burning or using DragonX.
Okay.
So ingratiating myself more with those teams, helping them succeed, getting them the resources they need to succeed, is a big thing that I want to do now, because DragonX is a almost $100 million asset at this point.
Yes.
So it is actually a really good place to stake your tent. And if you're doing quality work, I want to be there to advocate with you for your project. So that is one thing that I want to work on. The other thing is, when Jake goes multi-chain, I want to be there with DragonX, and I want that to be the underlying token that basically propels us multi-chain. So we have some ideas in the works. We were thinking about an auction protocol.
Okay.
But I think that the auction system, it's probably reaching its peak of adoption at this point within TitanX.
Okay.
And I've kind of come full circle on this. I hope I'm not saying anything controversial here. Like, I think there's great auction protocols out right now, and there will be more launching, but I don't necessarily think it's a fit for the DragonX team. You know, the thing about auctions is they're highly efficient. This is some alpha for you. The thing about auctions is they're highly efficient. So what that means is that you probably don't get as much efficiency out of a buy and burn as you would with a virtual mining protocol, because of the level of efficiency of an auction. So you probably don't get as many inefficient decisions, and so you don't get to burn your token, and you don't get profit for the contract.
Yep.
Which may, in the long term, actually lead to less price appreciation.
Okay.
So I think that there's probably something clever we're going to be doing with cross-chain mining.
Okay.
That will be very unique to us, and will help propel DragonX to a multi-chain. That's not a promise. We're also going to be building, most likely, something additional to burn Tink that will be Ethereum based.
Okay.
But I'm not sure that auctions are the way to go if you want the most effective burner on a token. Like, I think it'll be an interesting study to do. Maybe Mike team can do it.
Cool.
In terms of, yeah. So those are some ideas.
What about pulse chain
longer.
side? Obviously, a large swath of my people are pulse chain people. You're a pulse chain person.
Yes.
You know, what does that look like? Do you have any sort of ideas or being on pulse chain?
There are some token ideas that I've had for a long time for pulse chain. I just don't think it's the right time to launch them.
Got it.
Titan, I think that a farms on pulse chain will be amazing. It's just, again, it's not the time, but we can pivot quite quickly to get farms on pulse chain when the time is right.
Got it.
So I anticipate when Richard comes back in with guns blazing that we will be there with farms, some kind of farming platform.
What's the thing what's the thing holding it back right now? Is it just pure volume, users?
I mean,
adoption?
TitanX has more volume than pulse chain.
Correct.
You know?
So is that the primary factor that you're looking at?
Yes, for farming you need significant volume. So we would want that to be a lot higher. because ultimately there's no way with PulseX that we're going to get the volume that we're getting. Like we couldn't come into to Pulse Chain today and get 80% of the volume. There's no way.
Yeah.
Not with
Yep.
PulseX. So you need effectively a new wave of adoption into Pulse Chain, which would create space for new tokens that we could then bring those communities together in form a farming platform. So I think that there will be a time for that. I have big bags of PulseX and Pulse Chain. I've never sold them. So I think if there's Pulse Chain people watching, like even though sometimes I'm teasing blah, 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 or I use Richard Hart's like axioms, it's only because I'm just trying to get attention on me and our stuff. It's not out of animosity whatsoever.
Got it.
I probably have more bags than all the haters, out there that are blasting me. But yeah, ultimately, it needs more adoption, and that would be what's required. Because I think there's some good DeFi you could also build on there.
Great. Well, we're an hour and 15 minutes in. You and I always have things to do, yeah, I appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you being so open in your insight and the views of the world. And by the way, guys, he didn't see this coming. He hit me up. He's like, what other things are we going to talk about? I tagged him on Twitter. He's like, okay, I get myself into it right now. So yeah, thank you for coming on. Thank you for being straightforward. I appreciate the conversation. I think people learned a lot. Thanks, dude. Appreciate you.
Do you want to show Morpheus stuff before you go, man?
Yeah, Morpheus.win, guys. Let's actually pull it up here. Kind of curious. I've been busy today. Cool. So our current mint rate for Morpheus, we're doing a sprint mint. We are in cycle 7 out of 14 now. The amount of Morpheus that you can get for one TitanX is 0.76. We have 1.379 trillion TitanX in the buy and burn, which is also pretty cool.
Nice.
We've now burned 1.5% of Morpheus, which is also really fun. And nothing is really ramped up yet. It seems that whoever controls the no expectations wallet and the contract rather is keeping the buy and burn very low right now. So that's also interesting, around 1%. And we passed, I think we're north of 800 holders now with Morpheus, which is also very exciting, moving up pretty quickly here. And we've got a really solid group of folks who are putting out really, really good content. And I think we're also very excited about what the aggregator is going to bring to the table in December for not only Morpheus, but DragonX and then TitanX as a whole, and everybody hopefully in the community being able to benefit from that. So we are feverishly working. We are always observing because there's opportunity that can present itself. DeFi moves very, very quickly as well. And we just want to be here just to, like you said, kind of fill in the gaps here and move forward. So Morpheus is doing I'm very excited about it.
Same here. I'm looking forward to this aggregator, man. It's definitely a big project, and respect to you guys for taking it on. It's ambitious and it brings a lot of utility. So congrats.
Yeah, man. Very excited. Very, very excited. So this is about you, Eric. Thank you so much for coming on. We'll be clipping you like crazy, all the good stuff, maybe some controversial stuff. We'll get some clickbait here, and we'll go from there. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, thank you, man. See you soon.
All right.